What is up guys, Andy Forrestin Runner here, and today we're going to be diving in and taking a look at the New Balance 1080 version 10 versus the New Balance Fuelcell PROPEL. So now that we have over 50 miles in the 1080 version 10, I'm excited to sit down and give you my thoughts in terms of a comparison between these two very exciting shoes in my opinion. Today we'll go through the similarities and differences in their build qualities, their structure, and then of course I'll give you my personal thoughts on how I'm using these things, what I prefer each shoe for, and all of that good stuff. So excited for today's video guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. Without further ado, let's jump in. Detail in this video because of course we've covered the technical aspects in both of these first impressions videos, but what I will do is I'll go through the similarities and the differences in construction in both of these shoes before we get into my thoughts. We'll start off with the offset. This is an 8mm heel to toe drop shoe. This PROPEL is a 6mm heel to toe drop shoe. Both of these look very similar in the heel counter area. We both have that heel flare that New Balance very much enjoyed in 2019 and certainly look to be carrying that forward in 2020, but slightly different constructions. As you can see in the New Balance 1080 version 10, as I explained in my first impressions video, it looks like a two-piece upper from where I'm standing. We've got a heel counter area here which is quite sturdy and firm, and then here we've got this sewn on engineered mesh upper which goes all the way around to this side here, so we've got kind of a double connection going on here. And although we've got the heel flare, we've got a nice heel cup where my heel personally sits nicely in here, whereas in the PROPEL it looks to be just literally engineered mesh all the way around the top. There's no connecting onto the heel, and the heel counter area is still firm but slightly softer than the New Balance 1080 version 10. Moving on to the tongues, we've got a gusseted tongue in this, which means it connects onto the inner lining of the shoe. There's some elastic just in the side of the tongue there, which connects to the base of the outside of both of the midsoles. The inside material just to keep the tongue locked down and give you that locked down midsole feeling, whereas in the PROPEL we have just a standard, what I would call semi-plush normal tongue. Not thick, but not too thin, which is perfect for me. Absolutely love that. A more traditional lacing system in the 1080 version 10, just nice little eyelet chain going down here, nothing fancy. Whereas in the PROPEL, interestingly, we were using what I would call in Nike, it would be flywires, but in New Balance, I'm not 100% what they call the technology, but some little wires there to hold the laces in. Now I struggled with flywire on the Nike in my original Zoom flies and some of the other Nike shoes I tried. It didn't work for me. This is absolutely fine. I found that the flywire used to stretch a little bit, so my shoes got locked down and then halfway through the run I'd have to retighten them. I do not get that in the PROPEL, thankfully, so that's good. And then, as I said, moving on to the upper, we've got a suede tip around the top of the PROPEL. I don't know if you can see this here. That's just a suede tip there, guessing a bit of added protection. But on the whole, just typical engineered mesh along the top. The difference between the two is this material in the 1080 version 10, obviously it's missing the suede tip, is very, very, very stretchy. Very mouldable to your foot. This in the PROPEL is what I would call a more traditional engineered mesh, less stretchy. It is what it is, it does what it says on the tin. So in terms of getting a more snugger feel, you'll get that in the 1080 version 10. This is more of what I would call a standard upper. Doesn't particularly hug your foot around your toe box, but that's fine. I've got wide feet at the end, so that's perfect for me. Moving on to the midsoles, this is where they differ the most. Of course, this uses freshfoam X, their newer, New Balance's newer midsole technology. Of course, in the Beacon version 2 we saw the freshfoam. This is freshfoam X, in my opinion much better than in the Beacon version 2, and this is my favourite midsole of 2019, the Fuelcell. I cannot wait for the Fuelcell TC. I want to get my hands on a pair of those because I think Fuelcell with the carbon plate could be absolutely incredible. This is my first taste of Fuelcell midsole, still is my first taste, and it is by far the best midsole, in my opinion, in 2019. I absolutely loved it. So in that aspect, the Propel wins hands down. And of course, we move on to the outsole. This, just like the 1080 version 10, which you can't see so much because it has some rubber here, but we've got some outsole rubber placement across the bottom of the shoes. Again, I would say covering 80% of the shoe on this one. Again, maybe a little bit less on this one. We've got the red up here, we've got a little bit of darker grey down here, and we've got this exposed midsole there. But on the whole, again, similar purpose, rubber on the outsole for those hard wearing areas. So that is the similarities and differences between the two shoes. I prefer? Well, I'm going to split that question in half and say which shoes do I prefer for certain things and which ones do I prefer for other things, because ultimately both these shoes serve a purpose for me and have served a purpose in the past with the Propel in certain elements of my rotation. So a question to you guys is, are you looking for a shoe out of these two? Are you looking for a shoe that's going to do everything that you need it to do and then have a separate racing shoe, or you've got multiple shoes in your rotation and just looking for something a bit more specific? In terms of a daily trainer and something you're going to get a little bit more out of, the 1080 version 10, I think you look no further. The Propel, in my opinion, can be a little bit sloppy when it comes to doing speed work and when it comes to trying to pick up the pace. I certainly find the 1080 version 10 a little bit more responsive. But of course, if you're looking for those long, slow, easy days and a shoe to slot into your rotation for those easy runs, then 100% look no further than the Propel. I've done speed work in both of these shoes just from testing purposes, and I've certainly found the 1080 version 10 slots in better. And this shoe for me certainly fits into that middle of the range, 6 to 12 mile distance type of shoe running area. For me, that's quite a lot of my runs, my midweek, and that just works really well. For this thing, I tend to break it out if I'm going for maybe a long, slow 20 miler, or if I've just got 6 or 7 easy miles to do that I literally I don't want to be doing anything else other than zoning out and plodding through the forest on the trails, then I will end up using the Propel. Both of them, of course, have their pros and cons. I do find the Propel lighter than the 1080 version 10, and I've got to say, as a preference of a shoe, I do prefer the Propel. It's a shoe that grabbed me when I first got it, and it's absolutely incredible. But I think from a user perspective, if you're looking for something that can do a bit of everything, then the 1080 version 10 is going to give you a little bit of an edge over the Propel. But of course, those are just my thoughts. Have you guys run in either of these shoes or both of these shoes? If you have, let me know in the comments below, and of course let me know how you prefer to use both of these shoes. Have you even raced in any of these shoes, and how did you find you got on with them? Let me know and let's get that discussion going. So that's it for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Until then.